Hi, welcome back to my channel. I am super excited about the book that we're going to talk about today. I'm just going to jump right into it. This is a book that I read on my Kindle. So it is available on Kindle Unlimited. And the book is Phantom by Greer Rivers. And if you have seen any of this on Book Talk and you've been thinking about reading it, yes, I recommend. So, basically, it's like a modern retelling of Phantom of the Opera, and I'm gonna get into all of it in just a second. I literally finished this book last night, so I was very excited to talk about it today. But per usual, I'm going to read you the blurb, and then I'll break it down from my point of view, what I thought about everything. And just a quick disclaimer that if you don't like any spoilers at all whatsoever, read the book first if you're interested, then come back to my video. I'm not going to give any huge spoilers, but I am going to talk about like the things that I like and some of the things that happen. So, if you like to know a little bit more about a book before you hop into it, this will be perfect for you because like I said, I'm not going to spoil anything big, but I am going to talk about some of the stuff I read. So, anyway, I will read you the blurb and then we'll talk about it. So, a dark, modern, romantic retelling of the classic Phantom of the Opera, but this time the man behind the mask won't stop until she is his. She is my muse, and I am her demon of music. A year ago, I witnessed Sweet Scarlet Day's dark side. She's been my obsession ever since. I was content with being her secret, content with protecting her from afar, until an enemy from my past sets his sights on her. Our families have a deep history of hatred, and Scarlet is caught in the middle. Meanwhile, her mind plays tricks on her. When a panic attack goes horribly wrong, I emerge from the shadows to save her. Now that she's mine, I can't let her go. I've mastered the darkness. She tempts me with her light. But when my mask is gone, will she fear the monster underneath? Phantom is a spicy story set in modern-day New Orleans and a complete standalone in the Tattered Curtain series. Guaranteed happily ever after. So that was good. So I don't even know where to start. The reason why I decided to read this book is because I have been obsessed with Phantom of the Opera for like as long as I can remember. Like, I vividly remember when I watched the Phantom of the Opera movie with my mom when I was like in like middle school, I think. And even as a sweet, naive, like preteen, I could not fathom why Christine would pick Raoul over the Phantom. Like from like the very get-go, I was just like, why did she not pick the Phantom, right? So when I found out that this book has the Phantom and Christine, aka Scarlet, getting together, I was like sold. I was like, okay, I have to read this book, right? So I will say that the book does give Phantom of the Opera vibes, but the fact that it's a modern retelling made me a little sad because I love, like, I know it's not gothic, but kind of like that gorgeous, like, white outfit that Christine wears, like, when she's walking down into the, like, depths with the Phantom. Ugh, that scene is burned into my memory forever. Like, those vibes and the suits and the, I don't know, all of that, you know, the old opera house, that kind of, like, time period, I love. And I like historical romance. So that part I was like a little sad about, but the way that this book goes about it was really good. So in the blurb, it doesn't really talk about how it's a modern retelling. And so when I first started reading, I kind of had to like get in the headspace of what to expect. Because like I went in, you know, thinking like Phantom vibes or whatever from the like actual musical. And so modern setting is that Scarlet Day is attending, I think it's college basically for music. Also, just a heads up, I know absolutely nothing about music. Nothing. If you know about like opera and music, I think there will be another level of appreciation that you will have for this book, because some of like the music references and even like the titles of the chapters and how the book's set up went over my head, but I could still appreciate it, like acknowledging that that's really cool if you're into opera or music. So she's like going to a music school that is located in the old opera house in New Orleans. And so she is like a senior year student there. And she's arguably like the best opera singer there. But she went through some stuff a year prior to like when the like majority of the book starts, which I'll get into in a minute. So she's kind of like kept to herself the past year and hasn't really like put herself out there, hasn't gotten any like lead roles or anything like that, because she's just kind of like trying to stick to herself and like figure herself out and all of that. So that's where Scarlett's background kind of starts. Then we learn a little bit more about the Phantom, and I'm going to give you just like a little brief background, and then I'll get into it more as I talk about like how the book starts and stuff. Basically, the New Orleans is kind of like split in half, and like the Phantom and his family own one side of New Orleans, which includes the opera house, and then the like rival family owns the other half of New Orleans, which is called like the Garden District or something. So it's kind of like split half and half, but anybody that's on either side of this like crime syndicate family breakdown, like those people are in charge of protecting the people like in their side of the city. So I don't know how much that makes sense right now, but basically the Bordeaux's is the family that the Phantom belongs to, and they are like the crime, like mafia almost family that runs the opera house and that side of New Orleans. So they call him like the Phantom of the French Quarter, I think. I don't know, I'm pretty sure that's what they call him, or like the Phantom, right? Because the like main crime family, the Bordeaux's, there is the brother Ben, who is kind of like the face of the family to the public. So they know that like the Bordeaux's own the opera house. They have a lot of money. He's married to the daughter of the woman who owns a speakeasy in the basement-ish of the opera house. And it's called Mask. It's so cute, right? So that's like the brother. Then he has a twin named Soul, who is the Phantom. He's like our main male character, right? So his name is Soul Bordeaux. and he is the Phantom. So basically, when he was 15, he was like tortured and horribly scarred on like one side of his face and his like back and body and like arms and stuff. And I'm not going to get too into that because that plays a part in like the overall story. But so he was like severely burned and scarred. So he wears a mask on half of his face, and he also lost his eye. So he has like a prosthetic eye that he wears, and he is like ashamed of how he looks and like what happened to him and stuff. So he like almost never leaves the opera house because of this. And he has built like a whole house pretty much underneath the opera house. And there's like channels of water that goes down there, and it's like pitch black pretty much all of the time. But he's like lived his whole life down there. So he pretty much solely exists within like the opera house. However, he does participate in like the family crime life on their side of New Orleans at night, or like when there's a bunch of people out and he can wear a mask and nobody will notice, or if there's like parties going on. And the like speakeasy that I talked about earlier is called Mask because everybody wears like masquerade masks when they go there, so he can like freely go down there and like hang out, and people don't look at him funny because everybody else is like wearing masks. So that's kind of his background. Let me pull up, I have both of my notes, and I wanted to read the like note at the beginning from the author. Let's see, where is that? Okay, so a big part, or I guess aspect of this book that I really liked and found interesting was that Scarlett suffers from a bipolar disorder in the very beginning of the book. And so when I said like she went through a couple of tragedies, right? So first, her dad got killed, and then shortly after that is when she had her first bipolar episode, and then that kind of sparked her having to figure out how to manage her life so that she doesn't have another episode. She's like taking medication, taking really good care of herself, things like that. And what I thought was really I guess inspiring is that at the beginning of the book, the author has a personal note that she also has a bipolar disorder, and that she has had firsthand experience with like manic episodes, and learning how to like live with her mental health, and how to basically just figure out how to do her life once all of this kind of came to light to her. And so I thought that it was really, really cool. I don't know if cool is the right term, but inspiring that the author used her own personal experience to kind of try and give, I guess, light to and educate readers on bipolar episodes, bipolar disorder, things like that, and how important it is to talk about mental health stuff like that. And so I super encourage you, if you're going to read this book, not to skip over the note from the author about her experience with bipolar disorder. And then when you go into reading the book, you'll see how it's cool that she incorporated that into Scarlett's character and kind of normalizes that idea of mental health and taking care of yourself that way. I know I'm talking about that for a really long time, but that really stood out to me. I really liked that part of the book. So all of that aside, right? So that all happened a year ago, which is like where the prologue starts. And then the main part of the book starts with, it's like a year later. They call it present day, but basically it's a year later. And Soul is watching Scarlett on stage because it's very similar to, like the Phantom of the Opera, where the lead singer of the musical got sick. So Scarlett stood in for, I think it's like the last show. She stood in and then basically like blew everyone away with how absolutely amazing she was. And then we kind of find out that over the past year, Scarlett has been receiving these letters, and they're all like handwritten and beautiful, and there's like music notes, like handwritten music just specifically for her, and she's been kind of like carrying on this like romance type with the Phantom, but she doesn't know that it's the Phantom. She refers to him as her demon of music, so it's kind of like a play on Christine being his angel of music, or Christine thinking that he is her oh my gosh, what am I trying to say? Christine thinking that the Phantom is her angel of music, whereas Scarlett thinks of the Phantom as her demon of music. So, that all being said, I had to tell you all of that to kind of like set the scene for what we're going to talk about. Before I like jump in now to like the specifics of what like really stood out to me and all of that. The main tropes I would say in this book, obviously it's a dark romance. Like I kind of lined out already. There's like mafia, there's killing, there's a lot of drama. It's a dark romance. It's not like crazy dark though. Like I said, I love dark romance, but there's like a line, and this didn't even get close to crossing that line for me, so I enjoyed it. It's also obsession, definitely obsession, because like I said, he has been writing her letters and notes and music for like the past year. Like he has been obsessed with her for the past year. And it is also very who did this to you, touch her and you die vibes, because like he's like this ruthless killing machine, Phantom of the like French Quarter. If you mess with the Bordeaux family, like the Phantom's gonna come get you, and like all this stuff. So he's very much like a dark, broody, twisted kind of guy. And it is spicy. I would say that it's between like 30 and 40% spice, and then the rest is like character development and plot. It's not like crazy spice, it's just that there is a decent amount of spice that goes on throughout the book, like multiple chapters throughout multiple parts of the book type thing. So yes, all of that. Put up, basically. So Scarlett, just like saying the night of when she took over for that girl that got sick, right? So that night, Rand, aka Raoul, shows up at the opera house and sees Scarlett perform. I'm pretty sure that's how they got together. I could be mixing the actual Phantom of the Opera with this. I can't remember exactly. But basically, they find each other. And Rand is like a childhood friend of Scarlett and her dad's, and she hasn't seen him in a handful of years. So she's like excited to see him again, and it kind of like makes her feel good to see him because he reminds her of like a time when her dad was still alive and all of that stuff. So she's excited to see him. He is definitely supposed to be like the Raoul of the story, and he is pretty much set up for you not to like him. Like pretty close from the get-go. You're like Team Phantom all the way, right? So it comes out, this isn't like a huge spoiler, but it comes out that the rival family of the Bordeaux's is Rand's family. I say that lightly. It's basically Rand. He's like the rival of their family, right? But he is like the soft brother of his family, and he had been gone for all of these years, like traveling around Europe, and he's like not really taking like the crime life seriously, and he was always kind of like the aloof brother or whatever. And so he is back in New Orleans just to kind of like hang out and like get back to his roots, blah 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 blah. And he is very interested in Miss Scarlett, and Scarlett is like iffy on him. She's just kind of like, oh, it's nice to have like a friend back. But you know how it usually goes, he wants more than that and is like pushy about it. So some time passes, and there is exchanges between Scarlett and the Phantom, and it's very, it's kind of like mysterious, and it gets a little hot and heavy, and she's like not 100% sure like who her demon of music is yet, until some stuff happens. And then like the blurb says that Scarlett suffers from again, I'm trying to word this in a way that I won't give too much away, but basically Scarlett kind of has like a dip in her mental health, and something happens, and we find out that Soul, the brother, has been obsessed with Scarlett, right? And has been like watching her all the time, watching her through the mirror in her bedroom. And so he sees this thing happen, and then he kind of like rescues her to take care of her. So he like takes her down underneath into his little underground place. And so I guess you could also say there's a bit of forced proximity. I would not call it kidnapping. If you know, you know. It's kind of a funny thing in the book. But he keeps her there so that she doesn't have to be admitted to the hospital again. If she's like diagnosed with having another manic episode, because she doesn't want to go back. So his like compromise is that he will watch her and make sure that like she doesn't hurt herself or nothing bad happens to her for like the weekend. Also, that was something that kind of like threw me off, was like I felt like so much had happened, but in reality like huge majority of the book happened within like 3 days, I think. But it's like the weekend that he takes her down there and then like takes care of her. So of course they, get hot and heavy, things happen, and then it's a guaranteed happily ever. So obviously like they end up together. That's not a spoiler. I'm not going to talk too much about like the plot, because the way that you figure out things about like the mafia and like what goes on, I loved that part. I thought that was so much fun, and it added like a bit of like interest and like mystery to the book, which I really liked, because my two favorite genres of books are like thriller, mystery, and then romance. And so I liked how it was woven in to this book. But I will say that I really liked that the way that Soul's character was written, because he is like a ruthless killer, and he's part of like this mafia crime family, right? And I've read a couple of other like dark romance books where the man is like that, and he's still kind of harsh with his woman. His woman? Why did I say it like that? He's like kind of harsh with his love interest, you know? And it's kind of that idea of like a harsh man all the time. But I really like how Soul was written, because he's like harsh for everyone except for her, always. Like, there was not a moment that I ever once think he was harsh with her, like regardless of the circumstances. And like, low-key, Scarlett made me mad sometimes, because it was like, girl, what are you doing? This man is literally perfect for you. And like, she did some kind of like messed up stuff a couple of times, and like, he was just perfect the whole time. I was like, wow, this is a really nice guy. And I liked that juxtaposition of his character, and like, just that like character, I don't know if it's technically character development, but just like the way his character stayed very consistent with how he treated Scarlett the whole time. Loved it, right? So one quote that really stood out to me that I want to read to you, like really, like hit home to my heart, because I'm an indie author, and anybody, if you are writing or an author, or you like own your own business, or you're just like trying to follow and chase your dreams, it can get, your own worst enemy is yourself. And you can like kind of get hard on yourself, and I loved this quote, and I shared it on my Instagram and I highlighted it, but I want to read it to you on here as well. It says, "He's right, it is hard, but you work hard at what you love. That combination will make the difficult things worth it when you achieve your dream." And I just love that, because I think that's like a good reminder that we all need every once in a while, that all of the hard work and the things that are hard are going to pay off eventually. So yeah, I loved that. Also, so like that iconic "sing for me" line in the Phantom of the Opera? Well, that line definitely makes its appearance in this book. And, Soul will always say, "Sing for me," if you know what I mean. That was a notable note. I liked that. Also, okay, the declaration of love in this book, you guys, I loved it. Okay. Like I said, I said this in the first video I made, but like, I'm always going to talk positively about the books that I love. I'm not, even though I'm an author, right? I am not a critical reader. I not to make a generalization, right? But me personally, I could not enjoy reading if I looked at every single book that I read with like a super critical lens. I like to read to feel something. So like, if a book makes me feel something, I'm gonna enjoy it, right? Like, that's the kind of reader that I am. And Oh my gosh, The Declaration in Love. And I love love, right? I'm a romance author. I read romance books. I love love. Valentine's Day and Halloween are my two favorite holidays. I love love, okay? So I adored the declaration of love in this. And again, I think what makes it stand out to me is the like juxtaposition of Soul being such like a hard guy, and then how soft and like romantic and sweet he is with Scarlet. I just love it. So yeah, I hope that you enjoy the declaration of love as much as I did. I'd love to know your thoughts in the comments if you've already read this book, because I highlighted so many things from the declaration of love. And then the ending I enjoyed. I'm not going to talk about it because I don't want to give you any more spoilers than I already have, which, to be honest, I think I did a pretty good job. I wasn't sure how well I was going to do without giving spoilers, but let me know. This is the second video that I've made so far. Let me know if you like this format of me talking about the book the way that I am, if you think that I'm giving too many spoilers, or if you think that I could talk more about the book. Let me know what you think, and then I can kind of like adjust how I'm talking about these books. But yeah, I think that is all that I have for Phantom. I'm excited for the next video and the next book that I decided to talk about. Oh my gosh, duh. Okay. So, I also looked, let me look it up really quick to double check. But I know for a fact that the second book, no. Hold on. Hello? Okay. So, the second book in the Tattered Curtain series, like it said in the beginning, or maybe it was a blurb, I don't know. The Tattered Curtain series they're standalones, but I think they're a series because they're gonna all be retellings of musicals, maybe, because the next book in this series is called Rouge, I guess. Rogue. I don't know. I'm gonna go with Rouge because it's gonna be a modern retelling of Moulin Rouge. I'm not crazy though. The Rouge is spelled differently, I promise. But it's gonna be a retelling of Moulin Rouge, which I love. And so I'm very, very, very excited to read that. It's definitely on my list to be read. And it is going to be coming out June 30th of this year, 2023. So whenever that comes out, you bet I'm going to be reading it. So yeah, definitely that I wanted to mention. But other than that, I think that's it for today. So we'll see what book I decide to read next. I'm definitely a mood reader, and I read like 4 books at once. And then when one of the books like finally hits to where I'm obsessed with it, I will like finish it in a day. So we'll see which book gets there first. And I can't wait to talk books with you guys next time. Thanks.